Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my marked as to read video for December. Okay, but before we jump into this video, can we just talk about my new shirt that I got? This is in the style of like a straight out of Compton shirt, but it says straight outta the library. I really love it. Anyway, that's completely unrelated. In the month of December, I marked a total of 12 books as to read, which is by far the lowest number that I've had in one of these videos. So let's jump straight in and talk about all the books that I marked as to read during the month of December. The first book I want to talk about is Under Rose-Tainted Skies by Louise Gornall. This is a book that I've just been seeing going around Booktube quite a lot, and it's been getting really positive reviews from all the people I've seen talk about it. I believe this is a young adult contemporary story that follows a girl who is suffering with some mental illness. I believe she has anxiety issues and agoraphobia. I'm not sure if there's anything else involved there, but that is kind of what I understand that she's dealing with. And like I said, it's just been getting really positive reviews, and it's definitely a book that I would like to read in future because I really do want to try read more books surrounding mental health issues. The next book I want to talk about is Burning Blue by Paul Griffin. This is a book that Richard Denny actually recommended, and I believe that this is a young adult, I think dark contemporary about a girl who is really popular in her high school, etc., and then someone chucks acid in her face, and I believe the main part of the story is kind of trying to figure out who did this to her, I think. Richard had good things to say about it, and so yeah, it's definitely something that sounds really interesting. The next book I marked as to read is Famous Last Words by Katie Allender. This is a book that I actually saw on Brandon the Book Addict's channel on a thriller recommendations video that he did. This is again a young adult story. I believe it's a paranormal mystery, and I don't know too much about it except that I believe there's some kind of killer who stages the crime scenes after famous murder scenes. I'm not sure in real life or if in movies. I think it might be a movie thing, like he stages it after murder scenes from famous movies. And that just sounds really interesting to me, and yeah, it just sounds really good and definitely something that I think I would enjoy reading. The next book I marked as to read is Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss. This is a book that I've been seeing on Booktube a little bit, but the main person who I've seen talking about it is Lauren from over at Lauren and the Books. She absolutely raves about this book, and it definitely is probably a little bit outside of my comfort zone. This is a literary fiction novel about I believe it's a stay-at-home father, and his teenage daughter has some kind of serious medical incident, and I believe the story is just following their lives and how they kind of deal with it following this issue. As I said, Lauren just raves about it, and I've heard other people mentioning quite positive things about it around the Booktube community. And while it is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, I think just that because I've heard such rave things about it, it has really made me want to check it out. The next 4 books I'm going to talk about are all books that I saw on a Bustle article about the top 2016 thrillers. The first of those is, I believe, called The Vanishing Year by Kate Moretti, and this is a mystery thriller story that follows, it's a kind of a tropey type thriller synopsis about a woman who seems to have the perfect life, but she is not necessarily who she says she is. I think, from what I gather from the synopsis, that 5 years ago she was someone else, and I think the story just kind of revolves around that, but it was on that list and it sounded kind of intriguing, so I do want to check it out. The next one from that article was Under the Harrow by Flynn Berry. This is a psychological thriller about a girl who is going away to visit her sister, and when she gets off the train, she's expecting her sister to be there to pick her up, but her sister's not there. She goes to her sister's home and finds her sister brutally murdered. She doesn't trust the police to solve the crime because she's got some issues in her past surrounding, I think, an unsolved assault, I think they say. And so she doesn't trust the police to solve the crime, and I presume she's going to try to figure out what happened herself. I love stories like this. It just sounds right up my alley. Next, I have Last Seen Leaving by Caleb Roehrig. This is a young adult mystery thriller about a boy whose girlfriend goes missing. And I think I've actually seen this one going around Booktube a bit, and I believe that he may be suspected of the crime, but he didn't do it. I think you know that he didn't do it, but he does have secrets that he is trying to hide. And it just kind of follows that. It sounds really good. So yeah, I'd love to check this one out as well. The last book from that Bustle article is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This is another mystery kind of, I think this one's a psychological thriller, and it's about a couple who appear to be kind of the perfect couple, but there's some weird stuff going on, and I think it's just kind of follows the idea that you never really know what goes on in someone else's relationship, which I 100% believe to be true. I know people who have seemed like perfect couples on the surface, but underneath it's turned out that everything was not all perfect. So yeah, I just really, it sounds really great, and definitely something I would enjoy. The next book I marked as to read is Lacey's House by Joanne Graham. I actually read To the Edge of Shadows by Joanne Graham back in the month of December, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was really enjoyable, and so I had a look at other books published by Joanne Graham, and this is her debut novel. This one follows a woman who everyone just believes to be, you know, the crazy old lady who lives at the end of the lane type of thing. But she is then arrested on suspicion of a murder, and then there's this other woman who is new to town, and her and this crazy old lady kind of form a bond. That's all I really know about it. I say I'm just basically marked this as to read purely based off having read Joanne Graham's other book and really loving it. The next book I marked as to read I'm really excited about. It's called Final Girls by Riley Sager, and this is one that I actually saw Stephen King recommending on Twitter. And this is a young adult thriller about a girl who, I believe she goes on a camping trip with 4 or 5 other friends, and she's the only one to return. She is the only survivor of like a horror movie style massacre, and she, through surviving that, becomes part of this group called the Final Girls, which are people who are the final kind of sole survivors of situations like this. That's all I really know about it, because I didn't want to delve too deep into the synopsis because I don't like to know too many details about mystery thriller type books. But as I said, Stephen King was recommending it. I've actually seen it coming up on Twitter quite a few times through Stephen King recommending it, and it just sounds really awesome. I believe it's 2017 release, and I definitely want to check it out. The next book I want to talk about is The Curiosities, which is a collection of 3 short stories by Maggie Steve Otter, Brenna Yovanoff, and Tessa Grattan, I believe. And I've heard this mainly recommended over on Books and Lala's channel. She really recommends it, and I believe, as I said, there's 3 short stories, one from each of the authors, but each of the other 2 authors, there's like notes and comments throughout that person's short story of ideas and critiques and comments and things like that on the other writer's story. It just sounds really interesting, and I think it'd be really cool to get insight while you're reading the story of these notes from other writers. And I don't know if there's any notes from the actual author about why they've written certain things. I don't know, but it just sounds really intriguing. As I said, Books and Lala has mentioned it quite a few times, and I really do want to check it out at some point because it just sounds really interesting. The final book that I marked as to read in the month of December was Hurt Every Fear by Peter Swanson. This is Peter Swanson's 2017 release that I think is coming out in January. And I have read The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, which I really enjoyed. This is a mystery thriller story about a girl who has a lot of problems with anxiety and things like that, I think following on from her having an incident in her past where she was kidnapped by an old boyfriend and almost died, and she's suffering from anxiety and things like that. And then her cousin, who she's not very close with, he lives in Boston and she lives in London, and they decide to swap houses for a while. And when she gets to Boston, she discovers that her cousin's neighbor has been murdered, and the police are asking questions about her cousin. And it just sounds really interesting. That premise sounds really cool. And like I said, I really did enjoy The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I do also have Peter Swanson's other book, which I haven't read yet, which is called The Girl with a Clock for a Heart, which also sounds really interesting. So yeah, I really do want to check this one out at some point as well. So those are all of the books that I marked as to read during the month of December. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, or if you're excited for any of these books, if you have any thoughts or any books that you are really excited for that you've been marking as to read on Goodreads. I would love to chat in the comments down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye guys!